morning. Today we're going to be talking about the installation of the W400 camera activation kit. But we can't talk about installation before we talk about power. So let's talk power. There are two terms you're going to hear thrown around when talking about in-vehicle solutions. You're going to have constant power and switched power. Switched may also be referred to as an ignition source. These two types of power sources are utilized for electronic components within vehicles that turn on and off based upon the ignition status of the vehicle. This is critical to not drain the battery of the vehicle while it is sitting not being used. Therefore, the W400 should be installed the same way. You are going to connect power from the vehicle to the power terminal of the W400 camera activation kit. You will have switched power positive going into the positive side, and then you will have the ground going into the ground. The W400 takes about 2.5 minutes to boot up. So let's talk battery power. When we talk in-vehicle systems, as I mentioned, you're going to have two types of power, constant and switched. So here you can see we have the main power terminal connected directly to the battery. We also have the negative line connected to the battery. And then we have a switched power source that when the ignition is applied, this circuit turns on. So here, when the ignition is on or off, you'll have about 13.9 volts. And then here, when the ignition is off, you're not going to have any power. But when you turn the ignition on, that is referring back to switched power. This circuit will now have about 13.9 volts. So let's talk installation. So we're just in the front looking at the battery, and this is the 12 volt power line coming in directly from the battery. That is feeding in to a relay, which is allowing constant power to flow to this power distribution panel right here. Now the W400, as I mentioned, is hooked up to a switched power distribution panel, so it is not on when the vehicle is off. This line is the switched power line coming off the fuse block. When the vehicle is turned on, it is activating the coil in this relay, which is allowing power to flow through to this power distribution panel, where we have a 2 amp fuse and a line connected to this terminal, which is allowing power to go to the W400. Then we also have the negative, which is also connected to this panel here. When power is applied, it takes about 2.5 minutes to power up this unit. Something to keep in mind is that when an officer gets into their vehicle, they will be turning on the lights to test them. It is recommended that the officer turns the lights on or the event trigger on immediately when the vehicle is turned on. Now, in some applications, just triggering the light bar may not warrant a Bluetooth activation. So depending upon the light bar controller manufacturer, you can actually have AND events. So the light bar might require two different events to trigger a Bluetooth beacon, such as the lights are on and the vehicle is going over a specified mile per hour or kilometers per hour. Or the light bar goes on and then the door opens. Once those two conditions are met, then the signal is transmitted. There's multiple ways that the event can be created via multiple different types of triggers, such as a light bar, a gun rack, a door opening, or any other type of event that that agency may want to have be a trigger to activate the body-worn camera. So let's do a quick recap. Today we talked about the installation of the W400 and how to wire it. First, we have the two power sources, constant and switched. The W400 should be hooked up to a switched power source. And the power for the W400 should be connected to a 2 amp fuse. The trigger for the W400 should be connected to some triggering event, such as a light bar controller, and the input needs to be grounded. The body-worn camera is going to receive the Bluetooth beacon from the USB and the antenna attached to the W400. Inside of this device, you're going to program the event. So let's do a quick demo. We have the light bar control head. This will be in the front with the officer. During an emergency scenario, the officer will go to position 3, which will activate the light bar. The input from the light bar, which is tied into the W400, will create a Bluetooth beacon and automatically activate the body-worn camera, as you can see right here. But you don't have to worry. Remember, if the officer is trained to press the button, you still have to hold it for 4 seconds before the camera will turn on. And don't worry about where the device is installed in the vehicle. The Bluetooth signal is strong enough where it can be installed anywhere within the vehicle and still be able to activate the body-worn camera.